Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Beauty in the Breakup podcast. I'm so excited to have my friend Sylvia Puentes. You're traveling, you're in Peru?
I'm in Peru, yes.
Oh my gosh, that's so awesome.
First time here in Lima, Peru. So,
Wow,
yeah, a beautiful energy. It's my second day. So I'm still getting to know the area and the ocean is very close, very beautiful.
cool.
Yeah.
Well, we knew each other many, many years ago, and I remember you reaching out a couple of times when you were going through the growing pains of expanding your life and your family and the reactions that they had. Um, so I just wonder, like, when I share that and talk about that, like what comes up and what kinds of things, kinds of tools did you use to navigate all of that?
Well, it's interesting that you said growing pains because they didn't feel like pains to me.
Mm,
It was like, I think it was maybe pains for everybody else as I was actually kind of unearthing, uncovering the joy that's always been there, the adventure in living and creating that I always enjoyed and had, neglected or, was using that energy in maybe many other ways. So,
mm,
um, yeah, and I know that sometimes as women, right, we give birth and you forget about the pain, and yet, you have this beautiful child and, like you're willing to have maybe a second one. So maybe similar to that, that I can only see of how I was discovering more of me in the space of me, and not me from separation, but like rediscovering, I guess, or maybe not even rediscovering. It was like I started to explore what would I like, what's fun
mm.
for me. And the whole world started to open up, a
It
world
takes
that
a
I didn't.
lot of courage. I mean, to choose that when maybe your partner isn't or doesn't want you to.
Well, it's interesting because I'm very grateful. And, I was between, when we were living together and married, it was 17 years. So here's this man that I've known, for at least 17 years and, having a child and a home and to all of a sudden have me begin to explore something so different than what we were choosing. And, so I'm really grateful for him because he in this journey with exploring the tools of access consciousness and these classes that I was going to, it was an investment not only of time but money. That for him, I think at the beginning, it's like, okay, this is going to be this phase. She's going to take a class and then, be done. And, because right up to those early access consciousness classes, I was exploring, I was in question, like I knew there was something else. And I even went down the religion path, going, okay, maybe there's a religion. I grew up Catholic and started to go to some Christian churches. And, I even went as far as to get baptized as a Mormon
Ah, that's
right
interesting.
before, yes, access came. I thought I need someone to tell me what's the right thing to do. Maybe if I give up coffee and alcohol, then something greater will show up. I mean, so I'm grateful for Mark in the sense that he was like, okay, she's going through, call it midlife crisis or whatever it is, but but at the base of all that or underneath all of that, it was this desire for something I knew was possible but didn't know what. I just knew there was a level of freedom, joy of living, something more than what was showing up. And it wasn't against him or against anyone. It was just like I knew there was more. I just knew there was more.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
choosing for you and for what else was possible, what else you could be and explore. Did
Exactly.
they ever, your husband or your son, did they ever want to hold you back?
Um, it's interesting because they started to say things as I started to choose different.
Mm,
And it was things like my son, so you're always asking questions. Like he was just annoyed that there was this whole new world of asking questions, you know? And so, and I, I was playing lots of recordings, lots of audio. So there was always something in the home. And, but I wonder how much that truly was his, or was he also aware of his father? And then at one point, I think Mark said something like, "You have no reference point." And I thought, yes, but that makes things very unstable. There's not this, this way of knowing how you can, what button to push or what to say to control someone. So you become very uncontrollable when they can't use the past references of, oh, this will really get her, or this will. Um, so they would say things like that. And at the same time, I don't know that they could stop me, but I think, they were using what they thought they could use to, invite me to be as I was. And it's
Mm,
interesting because, Mark and I both are, my parents are from Mexico, and Mark has, some Latin blood in him. And, as far as we were concerned, we weren't living the typical roles of man and woman and masculine, feminine, machismo. Like that didn't seem real in our world. And
mm.
yet, as I started to change, it was like he saw, there was the sense like he did want the woman in the kitchen, barefoot and pregnant a bit. And I was not that. I don't think I ever
Where's my
was,
dinner?
but
Why isn't the house clean? Excuse me, do you know who you married?
and that's and that's what, at one point he's all, you lied to me. And I remember it's like, I didn't lie to you. I had no idea that this was here for me, that the world was available. I
Mm,
never dreamt about traveling. No one I knew in my family had gone to many places. So it wasn't like an aspiration at all, or a
mm.
dream even then. So as I started to open the doors to, going to Italy, going to Hawaii, going to these different places, it was a bit challenging for him to grasp that that could be part of my new reality. And and he felt me letting go of what we had built together. And he was quite sad. He was very sad because he was very attached to the rightness of what we had up until that point.
I remember when you and I went to Italy for certified facilitator. Was that your first
That
facilitator
was my
class?
first
Yeah.
certified facilitator.
And you were still together, and he was like, do whatever you want. And he was giving you space, and he was doing the thing that he thought would allow you to get this out of your system, maybe.
Yeah.
And it was so fun to watch you like take notes on, okay, note to self. Number 250, like don't wear high heel shoes when I'm
Especially not in Italy.
bring a roller suitcase. And gosh, that was so funny. But what I was getting at is like up until the point where it was all under control from his point of view, it was like go and do. And I wonder if when you started out creating his financial capacity to earn, if that might have been one of the tipping points.
Well, that, we were also in a, I guess, a transition point as we were looking to have another child. We have one son together. Um, and we were looking, it's like, wow, shall we have another child? And so it didn't come as easily as we thought. And, I had taken a leave of absence from school. I was an elementary school teacher, and so he had just finished, the nursing program. So he was in the work, he's starting to work. And so we didn't really feel that change. Well, as I took that leave of absence and exploring just different things, gave myself 2 years. And then it was like, all right, what am I going to choose? So I started consulting, and that becomes a very inconsistent income, right? And then you're right. I started to create money that wasn't consistent, but was larger than I was making as a teacher. So for him, there was that sense of he wanted the consistency. And this is where, like, we do grow up thinking that consistency, routine, and structures is the target of life. And yet knowing myself like I know myself now, that is so not how I function. I'm very, there's a lot of chaos in my world, and I can move and, every 10 seconds to something different. And so as that started to show up, you're right. He was concerned. He was concerned for me and what I was choosing. And you know what I got, Julie, too, is that there came a point where he was desiring secretly, maybe even that freedom. And yet, so there was almost discovering that there was this agenda. You go off, you explore what you would like, and then you can go back into the workforce, and then I'll go explore what I would like.
Mm,
And yet it was never spoken. So
mm,
in the changes of that, yeah, that inconsistency of income and really looking at like, well, what is it going to look like to have a relationship financially and all other ways where things are not consistent.
yeah,
And I was making some bigger financial choices. You're talking travel, you're talking, paying for different courses and it didn't make sense to him. And I remember one time I said, I'm following the energy, like it's expansive. And he said, that's scary. Like for him, that was frightening because how do you hold on or maneuver things when you're following an energy? And you
yeah.
know, I look at it now and even our when I finally chose the divorce, it was interesting waking up one morning going, why am I so upset? Like there was this what seemed like anger, and I looked at him, he was asleep on the bed, and I remember going, he's a good father, he's a good husband, but what is this? Like, there was a sense of being angry. And I was like, and I remember going on a walk with a friend, and she was talking about a book she was reading about addicted love, and then there was something she said with it, like the light bulb went off. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's what it is. Like I am so different now. The thing is, I'm not going back. I'm not like whatever's opened up. So out of that came this analogy that I'm so grateful because she goes, well, all plants, all living, if you have a plant in a pot, like there comes a moment where it's outgrown the size of the pot. And I've repotted many plants, and there is, when you get underneath, the entanglement of the roots
Mhm,
they're choking. They're
mhm,
gonna die. It's not gonna survive. If it has the
mhm.
desire to grow and you don't replant it, repot it, it's gonna die. It's not gonna have that thriving, vibrant energy that it can have. So getting to the analogy, I thought, oh wow, well great. We just get another pot. So we just get to decide what else would we like to have as our, I guess for lack of a better word, our container of our relationship. And saying that now, it's like, wow, that's also limiting in a way, but okay. Then it was just like this whole new universe had opened up. And I remember going home and I'm all, because I had told him, oh, that's right. When he woke up, I said, I don't know what it is, but I just want to say there's an elephant in the living room. I don't know what size, what color. Don't even ask me because I have no idea. And he was really curious, like, well, what do you think it is? And I was like, just give it some space because I have no idea. So when I got home after this conversation with this friend, I was like, I don't know what it is. It's just about getting a larger pot. Like, let's just get a larger pot. We get to figure out like what color, what size. And he was not happy. He was like, and I was really excited about the possibilities of the change and the newness, and
Yeah.
he was not. And at that point, my second trip that I took to Hawaii for an event, he was like, that's it. Like, it's not working. You have disconnected financially, emotionally, all these different ways. And I thought, wow, okay. And that was the beginning of then exploring the breakup. What was that going to be like?
I
And
remember too, he was going to a men's support group, and the men's support group was more about, you know, keeping things solid and looking into the darkness and feeling the heaviness of everything. And you were just like, he wants to explore the sadness and the heaviness, and I want to explore the lightness. It's just like, plants that, maybe he lives underneath other growth and you need to live more in the sun. And what if that's not wrong, but like trying to make you thrive in a situation that's dark and doesn't have the sunlight and the spades, and it's not going to work for you.
And that's so interesting you say that because you're right. If I have a plant at home and it's not doing well, I'm gonna move it, right? And I'm gonna desire for each plant to have the space that it needs. So in relationships and even looking at it in today, we're talking, maybe 10 years ago, that I've now been divorced. And um I'm still, discovering what relationship is for me, Um, and yet noticing how much I'm so aware of what other people need, desire, and want that I'm so quick to adjust myself to that rather than truly exploring what I would like. And, that's, I would say, the beginning of what I'm exploring now. Um, but yes, that he did. He wanted to look and be with the shadows. It was a mourning space for him and really a sense of loss. And I'm glad he gave himself that space. That's what he needed. But I tried. I really did try. I watched all the movies of those vampire movies. What are they called? The Eclipse, the whole no, I can't even think of the series, but it's this popular series that and I tried, I got into the drama and the tears. And yet there was one of the first moments I was driving to San Francisco from where I live, probably about an hour drive, going across the Golden Gate Bridge to meet a group of people. There was this event. I remember being on the bridge going, yes. It was like if my wings had spread. And I was like, wow, like there was just such this lightness and openness that I was like, wait, that's more true for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
So it was like buying the lie of the sadness and the upset and the intrigue of all what breakup should be. And I had actually, a lot of people that were really upset with me. One sister in particular didn't speak to me for 2 years because I didn't go through the sadness and the loss and the upset. And I
Dear,
would say, what's that?
how dare you?
Exactly. And there was people that said if you guys were the perfect relationship, because there was a lot of projections on, that we were perfect or good or better than most. And,
Mhm.
to have let that go, they're like, well, if you're getting a divorce, like, what the heck am I doing? I'm like, hey, to each their own. And yet, Julia, but there's one other thing that showed up because we did look at different things. It's not like from one day to the next, forget it. We, he wanted to go to counseling. So I went and it was, I think, our last session. There was two sessions I did, one on my own with one gentleman. And I remember walking into the building and then feeling all this sadness. And he started to ask me some questions and I just cried and cried. And I thought, wow, well, maybe I've made a mistake. I was thinking to myself. I walked out of the building and then I was happy again. I was like, what the heck is that? Like, what? Like, it didn't make sense. And yet, like, what I know now is like how aware I am to be in a building where there's this sadness and regret and upset. I'm aware of it. My body's aware of it. But to notice the contrast of when I walked out of the building, there was this lightness. I thought, wow, none of that was true for me.
Mhm.
And the other moment, we were in a couples therapy. And, as we were being asked some questions, the gentleman's all like, sometimes to be in a relationship, you got to be willing to clip your wings. And I paused and we walked out. And he told me later, he goes, I knew the moment he said that, that was it. And I thought, my wings aren't even all out. They're not even dry. And you're asking me to clip them? Like, why would you ask anybody to do that? So that was towards the end. And at the same time, once that divorce process started, there was actually more space and joy, I think, in both our worlds
Mhm.
that didn't make sense.
Mhm.
And I guess for me, with these access consciousness tools, beginning to trust what I know is light for me, that maybe it isn't for someone else, allowing everybody to kind of have whatever space they need, really made it, I guess, easier for me.
Mhm.
And and I gotta say, Julie, recently I saw Mark, we see each other every now and then. He had come over, I think it was breakfast or something, and And I shared with him that I actually chose the breakup really from the question, what will my life be like in 5 and 10 years if I choose to get a divorce? Because I told Michael, I didn't hate you. I didn't even see what wasn't working at the time. It
Mm-hmm.
was really the invitation to go our future energetically. What will it be if we get a divorce?
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't contain the energy. It was just like it kept
Mm-hmm.
growing, growing. And then if I don't choose divorce, it still expanded. It was
Mm-hmm.
probably wider than most, right? And yet I had to then ask the third question, what's the energy that I'd like my life to be like? Which one matches more? That's where I chose divorce from. And then what would his life be like? It was expansive. What will our son's life be like? It was expansive. Like I couldn't tell him that in the moment. But just recently I let him know, I go, there was nothing that I saw in the moment that wasn't working. I wasn't upset. I didn't hate you.
Yeah.
And what he said, he said, well, Sylvia, I can see now the gift it's been to the world for our divorce to have happened.
Mm.
And I thought, wow, you can't ever really expect that that will ever be something someone says, but that he can see that.
Mm-hmm.
He can see, what I am choosing or have chosen that's contributed perhaps more in the world than
Yeah.
perhaps if I would have stayed married,
Yeah.
you know,
So
which I'm grateful for.
it's not just for you, it's for you and your vision of what you'd like to create. And a lot of people turn it into this like selfish thing or, anything other than what it actually is. I remember when I used that tool, and that's actually step 3 in the book, I think explains that. So if you haven't read the book, go check it out. It's an amazing tool. And I remember I had such this expansive, like, oh, And when I went home, I was like all excited to make this choice. And I looked at him, I looked at the kids, and I thought, I can't do this right now. And I totally smushed myself into the little family box for another year,
Yeah.
a whole year. And I was suffocating. I couldn't do it anymore. So then I
And
tried.
And and for me, the way it showed up, because as I was exploring the thought or consideration of the divorce, the thing that showed up so quickly, and I, really share this visual, but it was almost like there was this big chunk of gum attaching to my head as I was thinking, and it was like, how the heck am I gonna do this? And I was looking at the financial side. If
Yeah.
I truly just get a divorce, like because it was I can't was the conclusion
Mhm.
and the thought, and I'm all, that's the quick gump on the head. And I literally have this like vision of pulling off. If you ever had gum stuck on your hair or anywhere, but you're just trying to pull it off or your shoe, whatever, right? And just, geez, it's still stuck and you're pulling, you're pulling, you're pulling. If you're lucky, it'll be a clean detachment, but it usually isn't. But I remember pulling out as much as I could and I looked at it outside of me and I thought, is this actually true?
Mm.
Because that was the gift of the access consciousness tools is that I started to ask questions. So in exploring, like, what if I actually do know? You mean I might know? So as I looked at that, is that true? And I was like, no, it's not. And I got, wow, how many women, men perhaps as well, but women in particular, go to that and do not choose to explore something different in their relationship because of the financial part.
Oh my God, I'm sure it's a huge amount of people.
And I had to really look at that. Not because, even if I think I did calculate what I'm making now. It's like I could still pay the mortgage. And we had a couple of rental properties, but it was just having clarity. I could pay the mortgage. Would it be tight? Yes. So that's a lie, you know. So really like untangling the truths and the lies of what was
Mhm.
possible.
Mhm.
And that assisted me in big ways. As I explored more the divorce and all the other details. But yeah, those pieces that pull us back and draw us back to live in that box of whatever, we think is the edges of what we can choose. And yet, I mean, it's been 14 years and I would have never imagined living the life that I live now. And even now, it's, starting to take a form where I'm all like, what else is possible here that I have not considered? And, what other box am I living in that I would like to begin to question if what's actually true for me and what's actually the lie. So, um, yeah, and I'm grateful to, because here's another piece. When I got a divorce, and in the process, I started to build this resentment and anger that I thought was required, that I thought that's a part of what shows up. And it was this heaviness. And I thought, wait, this is not the energy I choose to live with. And the thing is that I wasn't upset with him for anything, particular thing. But yet in my head, it was like, well, if I still care for him, if there's kindness, don't you stay with someone if you have those energies? And I had to get real clear. It's like, no, I do not want to live with him again. And that doesn't mean I can't still be kind and caring.
Mm-hmm.
And so, again, I can spend 3 hours with him maybe, but maybe not longer than that, right? Just because, we're just different and different energies there. And yet I could still be kind. We could still contribute to each other. And so, I go into town and I currently don't have my car in California, so let me borrow his car. Or, he had friends over and I have my vacant place, so I let his friends stay. But there's just a sense like it's one other person we know we can call and ask something of or to contribute or help out. So that for me, I'm like, oh yeah, that's actually the generosity of spirit and energy I would like in my life. Um, so I'm very grateful, but we're talking, it's been 10 years, and that wasn't there the first year, and not the third year, and maybe a little speck of it in 5 years. But now at 10 years, we're both clear. One, having sex, copulating would not be in our best interest. We know that. We both do. Because our bodies still have that real flirtatious energy, but we're both really clear. I'm clear I don't want to live with him. Yes. But I'm also clear that he is the father of my son. And you know, as long as I'm aware, there's always that sense of if something is asked, like, yeah, I'll contribute what I can. Um, and that I didn't know was possible. I thought that you needed to hate people, be angry and upset in a breakup and in a divorce, and something else is available. But I had to be willing to have what's actually true for me be greater than what other people say it should be like, or, or his reality. And I think that's contributed to us both. He travels, he's, exploring different things. He's happy in his own way, and so is our son. And yet I wonder what else is available in relationships, beyond what paradigm we grew up thinking was the one to reach.
Amazing. Yeah. Letting each person grow once you've outgrown your pot and thrive. And what a gift that is. Yeah.
And I didn't realize, like you said earlier, the courage of that, but also the caring to let someone else choose, eat something else, even if that means not with you.
Yep.
That part with whether it be friends, whether it be family, whether it be your partner, but the willingness to know that you have you no matter what. I think that resilience, that strength, that caring for you is huge, huge.
Yeah.
you know and one of the specialties, the gift of your book, and also the specialty classes of relationship done different, it's like there really is something else available. And when you have that with you, it doesn't mean you have to get a divorce. It might not be that for you, but what would it be like to be with someone and explore, together, having, maybe sometimes you're in the sun, sometimes you're in the shade, like that willingness to play together and create together. So I'm I'm grateful. So thank you for inviting me to this conversation to remind me of all of that.
Well, I'm grateful that you were available, and I'm sure everybody will want to listen to this again because there's so many nuggets in there. And thank you.
Thank you, Joy. Yeah. For bring continuing to have this conversation out in the world. Because if anything, it really is this gift of like if we had that space and caring for ourselves, yeah, relationships may be very, very different. Yeah.
True. Awesome. Okay. Thanks everybody for listening.
Thank you.